Etruria, about the opening of the 8th century, the region to the north of the Tiber, west and south of the Apennines, was occupied by the people whom the Greeks called Tersini or Terini, the Romans Etrusi or Tussi, but who styled themselves Ravenna. Their name still clings to this section of Italy, La Toscana, which to the Romans was known as Etruria. Racially and linguistically, the Etruscans differed from both Italians and Hellenes, and their presence in Italy was long a problem to historians. Now, however, it is generally agreed that their own ancient tradition, according to which they were immigrants from the shores of the Aegean Sea, is correct. They were probably one of the pre-Hellenic races of the Aegean Basin, where a people called Terini were found as late as the 5th century BC, and it has been suggested that they are to be identified with the Tertia, who appear among the Aegean invaders of Egypt in the 13th century. Leaving their former abode during the disturbances caused by the Hellenic occupation of the Aegean Islands and the west coast of Asia Minor, they eventually found a new home on the western shore of Italy. Here they imposed their rule and their civilization upon the previous inhabitants. The subsequent presence of the two elements in the population of Etruria is well attested by archaeological evidence. The Etruscans regularly built their towns on hilltops which admitted of easy defense, but, in addition, they fortified these towns with strong walls of stone, sometimes constructed of rude polygonal blocks and at other times of dressed stone laid in regular courses. The most striking memorials of the presence of the Etruscans are their elaborate tombs. Their cemeteries contain sepulchres of two types: trench tombs, tumba fossa, and chamber tombs, tumba camera. The latter, a development of the former type, are hewn in the rocky hillsides. The Etruscans practiced inhumation, depositing the dead in a stone sarcophagus. However, under the influence of the Italian peoples with whom they came into contact, they also employed cremation to a considerable extent. Their larger chamber tombs were evidently family burial vaults, and were decorated with reliefs cut on their rocky walls or with painted friezes, from which we derive most of our information regarding the Etruscan appearance, dress, and customs. Objects of Phoenician and Greek manufacture found in these tombs show that the Etruscans traded with Carthage and the Greeks as early as the 7th century. The Etruscans worked the iron mines of Elba and the copper deposits on the mainland. Their bronzes, especially their mirrors and candelabra, enjoyed high repute even in 5th century Athens. Their goldsmiths, too, fashioned elaborate ornaments of great technical excellence. Etruria also produced the type of black pottery with a high polish known as Bucero Nero. In general, Etruscan art is revealed in wall paintings and in the decorations of vases and mirrors displays little originality in choice of subjects or manner of treatment. In most cases, it is a direct and not too successful imitation of Greek models, rarely attaining the grace and freedom of the originals. In their architecture, however, although even here affected by foreign influences, the Etruscans displayed more originality and were the teachers of the Romans and other Italians. They made great use of the arch and vault. They created distinctive types of columns and atrium, both later called Etruscan, and they developed a form of temple architecture, marked by square structures with a high podium and a portico as deep as the cella. Their mural architecture has been referred to already. Knowledge of the art of writing reached the Etruscans from the Greek colony of Syme, whence they adopted the Chalcidian form of the Greek alphabet. Several thousand inscriptions in Etruscan have been preserved, but so far, all attempts to translate their language have failed. The religion of the Etruscans was characterized by the great stress laid upon the art of divination and augury. Certain features of this art, especially the use of the liver for divination, appear to strengthen the evidence that connects the Etruscans with the Eastern Mediterranean. For them, the afterworld was peopled by powerful, malicious spirits, a belief which gives a gloomy aspect to their religion. Their circle of native gods was enlarged by the addition of Hellenic and Italian divinities, and their mythology was greatly influenced by that of Greece. The Etruscans were mariners before they settled on Italian soil and long continued to be a powerful maritime people. They early established commercial relations with the Carthaginians and the Greeks, as is evidenced by the contents of their tombs and the influence of Greece upon their civilization in general. But they, as well as the Carthaginians, were jealous of Greek expansion in the western Mediterranean, and in 536 a combined fleet of these two peoples forced the Phocians to abandon their settlement on the island of Corsica. For the Greeks, their name came to be synonymous with pirates, on account of their depredations which extended even as far as the Aegean. In Etruria there existed a league of 12 Etruscan cities. However, as we know of as many as 17 towns in this region, it is probable that several cities were not independent members of the league. This league was a very loose organization, religious rather than political in its character, which did not impair the sovereignty of its individual members. Only occasionally do several cities seem to have joined forces for the conduct of military enterprises. The cities at an early period were ruled by kings, but later were under the control of powerful aristocratic families, each backed by numerous retainers. In the course of the 6th century, the Etruscans crossed the Apennines and occupied territory in the Po Valley northwards to the Alps and eastwards to the Adriatic. Somewhat earlier, towards the end of the 7th century, they forced their way through Latium, established themselves in Campania, where they founded the cities of Capua and Nola, and gradually completed the subjugation of Latium itself. This marks the extreme limits of their expansion in Italy, and before the opening of the 5th century their power was already on the wane. It was about this time that Rome freed itself from Etruscan domination, while the other Latins, aided by Aristodemus, the Greek tyrant of Syme, inflicted a severe defeat upon the Etruscans at Aricia, 505 BC. A land and sea attack upon Syme itself, in 474, resulted in the destruction of the Etruscan fleet by Hieron, tyrant of Syracuse. The year 438 BC saw the end of the Etruscan power in Campania with the fall of Capua before a Samnite invasion. Not long afterwards, as we shall see, a Celtic invasion drove them from the valley of the Po. The explanation of this rapid collapse of the Etruscan power outside Etruria proper is that, owing to the lack of political unity, these conquests were not national efforts but were made by independent bands of adventurers. These failed to assimilate to conquered populations, and after a few generations were overthrown by native revolutions or outside invasions, especially since there was no Etruscan nation to protect them in time of need. Thus, failure to develop a strong national state was the chief reason why the Etruscans did not unite Italy under their dominion, as they gave promise of doing in the course of the 6th century. Our general impression of the Etruscans is that they were a wealthy, luxury-loving people, quick to appreciate and adopt the achievements of others, but somewhat lacking in originality themselves. Cruel, they took delight in gladiatorial combats, especially in Campania, where the Romans learned this custom. Bold and energetic warriors, as their conquests show, they lacked the spirit of discipline and cooperation, and were incapable of developing a stable political organization. Nevertheless, they played an important part in the cultural development of Italy, even though here their chief mission was the bringing of the Italian peoples into contact with Hellenic civilization.